I don't think I meant to ruin everything, but maybe, somewhere deep down, beneath all the rationalizations and the ego, I wanted something to break. Or at least shift. Because nothing had shifted in years. I've been married to Marcus for 5 years. We met in our mid-20s when we were both new to Dallas, both broke and both pretending to know what that early. I'd stay up scrolling TikTok under the covers. When he did reach for me, it felt automatic, kind, sure, but not hungry, not curious, like kissing a memory instead of a person. I told myself this was normal, this was marriage. The spark fades. You build comfort. Routine becomes intimacy. But then, why did I feel so cold at night, even when his arm was around me? And it wasn't like he didn't care. If anything, Marcus cared in all the practical ways. He paid the bills on time, fixed the garbage disposal when it broke, reminded me to refill my thyroid meds. But he hadn't told me I was beautiful in months, maybe a year. He hadn't looked at me with that stupid smirk he used to wear when I got worked up over silly things. He hadn't teased me, challenged me, flirted with me. I missed that. I missed him. Or maybe I missed the version of myself that he used to make me feel like. I'm not proud of what I did. I'm not even sure I understand why I did it, not fully. But I know it didn't come out of nowhere. It came from a place I didn't want to admit existed. A hunger for proof. I wanted to know that he still saw me. That I could still affect him. That I wasn't just a comfortable fixture in his neatly organized life. So I did something reckless. Something I thought would shake him enough to remind him what it feels like to want someone before it's too late. I told him I saw my ex, and that it stirred something in me. It wasn't supposed to mean anything. I planned the words the way I'd plan a script for a job interview, calibrated just right to create a stir without starting a fire. We were having dinner, one of those quiet Tuesday meals where we both scrolled our phones between bites of rotisserie chicken and green beans. No music, no talking, just background chewing and the occasional fork clink. That's when I said it. I ran into Caleb today. Marcus didn't look up at first, just nodded. From college? Yeah, another nod. Still scrolling. There it was, the indifference, and I hated how much it stung. He asked if I was still married, I added, watching him from across the table. Said I looked happy, but kind of sad too. That made him pause. He glanced at me. What'd you say? I said I was still married. He put his phone down, and I shrugged. And then we talked for a minute, that's all. There was a shift in the air, the kind you can't hear but feel, like when a storm is coming and the birds go quiet. You two were close back then, Marcus said carefully. Yeah. More silence. I didn't know you still thought about him, he added, sipping his water. I don't, I lied. It was just strange seeing him again. Then I dropped the real bomb. I'd be lying if I said it didn't make me feel something. I let the words settle like ash on the table between us. Not too dramatic, not too obvious, just enough to leave room for interpretation. I expected him to react, to flinch, to ask questions, to care. But he just sat there, looking at me, really looking. And then he said something I'll never forget. Thanks for telling me. That was it. No anger, no jealousy, not even a trace of emotion in his voice. He stood, rinsed his plate in the sink, dried his hands on a dish towel, and went upstairs. I waited. 10 minutes, 20, 40. Eventually, I went up too, only to find the closet open, his overnight bag half packed. Where are you going? I asked, pulse racing. He didn't turn around. Somewhere I can think, he said. Don't wait up. Wait, Marcus. Seriously? It was just a conversation. He zipped the bag. Was it? He asked, still calm. Because it didn't feel like just a conversation. It felt like a test. He walked past me without brushing my shoulder. No slam of the door, no yelling. Just the quiet, deliberate sound of someone who's been hurt before and promised themselves never again. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, convinced he'd come home by morning. He didn't. And that's when I realized I hadn't started a fire. I had pulled out the foundation brick by brick. And the collapse was already in motion. I kept expecting the knock on the door, maybe on the second day, or the third. I thought he'd walk in with tired eyes and a tight jaw, ready to talk things out, to say, that was a low blow, Haley, but let's fix it. But the knock never came. Instead, the house just got quieter. His sneakers by the door stayed untouched. His toothbrush didn't move. The plant he usually watered started to lean, thirsty and forgotten, just like everything else he used to care about in this house. The silence was unbearable. It didn't scream at me like anger would, it just sat there, waiting, growing heavier by the hour. I texted him the second night. I know that hit you wrong. I didn't mean it like it sounded. No reply. The next morning I texted again. Can we talk, please? Read. No response. I left voicemails, short ones. It was wrong. It was stupid. But I didn't cheat. I didn't betray him physically. I didn't even talk to Caleb again after that night. It was a thought experiment, a spark thrown into cold water. He was the one who set it on fire by walking out. I started to rewrite the narrative in my head. The way you do when guilt starts to itch but pride won't let you scratch it. He's always been too sensitive. He never understood nuance. Maybe I was just the excuse he needed to leave. But late at night, when I turned over to an empty bed, all those rationalizations faded. Because even if he had overreacted, even if I believed he should have stayed, the fact was, he didn't. And that told me everything I didn't want to hear. It took 3 weeks for me to stop waking up expecting his keys to jingle in the lock. 3 weeks before I stopped refreshing our shared calendar just to see if he'd added something that might give me a clue. Where he was, who he was with, if he even still considered himself us. That's when the shame stopped being numb and started taking shape. I opened my laptop one afternoon and reread the email I had sent him 3 days after he left. The subject line was, "It was just a test." The body of the email was long, messy, almost poetic in how carefully I justified my intentions. I told him I missed passion, that I wanted to know he still wanted me, that I never actually saw Caleb, that I made it up entirely. Yeah, I didn't run into my ex. He wasn't at a coffee shop. I hadn't seen him in years. I invented the whole story because I wanted to provoke a reaction. Not to hurt Marcus, just to feel something real from him. Some heat, some proof I hadn't disappeared behind the grocery lists and tax folders and non-stick cookware. Marcus replied with one sentence. "You proved what I feared most, that you confuse being desired with being loved." I didn't respond. Because what could I say? He was right. And not just about that night. About all of it. I started thinking back to other moments, times I'd tested him before. Like the night I pretended someone flirted with me at the bar just to see if he'd get jealous. The time I posted a feeling cute selfie and told him an old flame had liked it. The argument I escalated on purpose, waiting to see if he'd fight for me or walk away. It was a pattern. A game I kept playing, but never admitted to. And Marcus? He kept showing up, kept calming me down, kept forgiving things I never even owned up to, until this time. Until I crossed the line from insecure to manipulative and made him question his place in his own marriage. The truth is, I didn't just break his trust. I broke the rules of trust. Trust isn't just about not cheating. It's about being emotionally honest. About not turning your partner into an unwilling participant in your internal chaos. About not crafting little storms just to see if they'll still hold the umbrella. I told myself I was trying to fix something. But I never told him what felt broken. Instead, I orchestrated emotional theater, and then got shocked when he walked out of the audience. And here's the part that hit hardest. Marcus wasn't punishing me by leaving. He was protecting himself. He didn't yell, didn't shame me, didn't throw accusations. He just left. Quietly. Finally. With dignity I never gave him credit for having. And in that silence I saw something I'd never had the guts to admit before. Maybe I wasn't afraid he didn't love me. Maybe I was afraid he did, and I didn't deserve it. I kept the porch light on for 6 weeks, not every night, just the ones when I felt braver than I actually was. The ones when I thought, maybe this is the night he drives up, exhausted, ready to talk. Maybe he's forgiven enough to just sit across from me again. I left his spot on the coat rack untouched. His toothbrush stayed in the holder. His mug with the chip on the side still sat next to the French press every morning. Like muscle memory had made me prepare 2 cups even when only one was needed. I stopped telling people we were taking space after week 4. Because by then, I'd stopped believing it myself, but still I hoped. I hoped because we'd been through rough patches before. I hoped because I knew how he folded his t-shirts and what smells made him sneeze. I hoped because I'd once seen him tear up when he thought I was asleep after watching a Pixar movie. Surely someone who loved that deeply could find a way back to me. Then one Tuesday afternoon, I found a small package on the doorstep. No return address, no note. Just my name, written in the neat, slightly tilted handwriting I'd memorized from birthday cards and sticky notes left on the fridge. I knew. My stomach sank before I even touched the box. Inside, his house key, his wedding ring, a folded page from a notebook. On it, just this: I didn't stop loving you, but I stopped recognizing the version of me that stayed with you. Of being known completely and still walked away from. It's been 9 months since Marcus walked away. I still catch myself setting 2 places for breakfast. I still flinch when I hear keys outside the door, like some part of me believes he might change his mind and come home, even now. But he won't. And deep down, I don't think he should. I used to tell myself this was just a bump, a bad chapter in a good story, that love is supposed to survive things like doubt, like fear, like one reckless sentence said at the wrong time. But now I know the truth. Love doesn't survive disrespect. It can survive hardship, boredom, even mistakes, but not intentional erosion. Not the kind of games I played with his heart. I've spent the better part of a year doing therapy. At first, I went so I could learn how to win him back. Now I go because I need to understand how I became someone who measured affection by reaction, who equated silence with power and honesty with danger. There's a notebook I keep on my nightstand. I write to him in it sometimes, not because I think he'll read it, but because I need a place to tell the truth that never made it into my mouth while he was still here. Like, you made me feel safe, and I mistook that for boredom. I was afraid of being unchosen, so I created scenarios to force you to prove otherwise. I didn't believe I was enough, so I tested you until you believed it too. I've stopped blaming him for not coming back. He gave me a love rooted in steadiness, in daily kindness, in showing up. And I treated it like something that needed to be poked to see if it would bleed. I didn't just lie about seeing Caleb. I lied about what I wanted, who I was, and what I feared. Marcus didn't leave because I made a mistake. He left because I made it impossible to trust me with his peace. And honestly, he was right to go. There's no big moral victory here. No clean arc where I rebuild my life stronger and find someone new who understands me better. There's just this. Me, learning how to live with the consequences of confusing attention with love. Me, walking alone through the house I once shared with a man who would have done anything for me, if only I had asked instead of manipulated. If you're reading this and thinking about testing someone you love, let me save you the pain. Don't. Ask for what you need. Say the quiet fear. Tell the truth before it turns to strategy. Because love isn't a quiz. And sometimes when you test someone, they don't fail. They walk away. And you're left holding the grade sheet, realizing the only one who failed was you. Some nights I still talk to him, not out loud, just in my head. When the house is quiet and I'm lying awake in the bed we once shared, I'll imagine him asking me, why? And I still don't have a good answer, not one that makes it okay. Not one that justifies the way I weaponized emotion, like a teenager trying to make sparks by smashing glass. What I do have now that I didn't before is clarity. And the ache that comes with it. You see, the worst part about losing someone isn't the moment they leave. It's every moment afterward where their absence changes the shape of your reality. You notice it in places you didn't expect. Like how no one laughs at your bad puns the way they used to, or how quiet the kitchen feels in the morning when no one asks if you want sugar in your coffee. I used to think love had to be felt constantly. Fireworks, butterflies, constant reminders. But Marcus, he loved in verbs. In folding laundry. In replacing my wiper blades before a storm. In remembering I hated mushrooms and picking them out of takeout pizza even when he liked them. And I was so busy looking for a declaration, I missed the devotion. Therapy has been uncomfortable, which probably means it's working. We've talked a lot about patterns, how the girl who always felt replaceable became the woman who tested loyalty before it could be taken from her. It makes sense now. My father left when I was 9. My first boyfriend cheated when I was 16. My college ex made me feel like I was a convenience, not a choice. So I learned to preempt the pain, to set traps disguised as jokes, to control the narrative before anyone else had the chance. But here's what I didn't understand until it was too late. When you test someone constantly, you're not proving how much they love you. You're proving how little you love yourself. Because people who trust they're worthy of love, they don't need confirmation through chaos. And Marcus? He loved me more than I knew what to do with. Not perfectly, not passionately, in the movie scene way, but deeply, steadily. In ways that required patience and commitment. In ways I took for granted because they didn't set off fireworks in my chest. I remember once, early in our marriage, he caught me crying quietly in the bathroom after a rough day. I told him I was fine enough. I felt old reflexes tugging at me, wanting to say something just provocative enough to pull him closer. That's when I knew I wasn't ready. I wasn't healed. I was just alone. And being alone isn't the punishment I thought it would be. It's not easy, but it's not death either. It's quiet, sometimes too quiet. But in that silence, I'm finally learning how to sit with myself. I'm learning that my voice doesn't need to echo off someone else to matter. That I can miss someone without chasing them. That regret doesn't have to drown you. It can be the thing that teaches you how to swim differently next time. Do I wish I could undo what I did? Absolutely. But if I had never said those words to Marcus, if I had never fabricated that fake run-in with my ex, I might have continued living in that half-truth forever. Numb, ungrateful, blind. And maybe he would have stayed. But neither of us would have grown. Now the only thing I ask is this, that one day, if Marcus ever thinks of me, it isn't with hatred. Not even forgiveness, just understanding. I was never trying to break him. I was trying to fix something inside me, in the worst way possible. I just didn't realize he'd be the one to pay the price. And if you're reading this because you're on the verge of doing something similar, saying something to provoke, to test, to make sure, let me tell you, you don't need to burn the house down just to see if they'll come running, because sometimes they won't, and they're not wrong for that. Sometimes they just finally choose themselves, just like I'm learning to choose me. Quietly, honestly. One morning at a time.